Hi, how you going there? My name's Jason Andrew from Collins & Co. Financial Planning, and I am really excited to be able to create this video for you today because what we're doing within our business is that we recognize that it's been a bit of a tough year for many, many people. 2020 didn't go quite as planned, and 2021 was probably even less. You probably got delivered less than you really, really wanted, even more so. So because of that, we know that a lot of people are heading towards the end of the year and they're kind of exhausted. They're just crawling towards the end of the calendar year. And then what that's going to mean is that, especially in Australia, we shut down for a couple of, maybe a month or so, whilst people go on holidays. And in that time, people will recharge. And then they'll come back into the working world and sort of lighten up by mid-January. And then by the end of January, they'll start thinking about planning out for the year for 2022. And we think that's a little bit too late to start planning for your next year, especially because next year can be one of the best years that you can actually ever have if you take the right actions. So over the next 3 sessions, I'm just going to be sharing with you some tips, some things that we do within our business, where we've got hundreds of financial planning clients, got thousands of accounting clients, and my background of being in the industry for over 23 years, having had businesses, serviced hundreds of clients around Australia, we're going to bring together a lot of knowledge. So to create something that's really simple and easy for you to implement, because we know that you guys are busy and we know that there's a lot going on and that you're under the pump. And the last thing that you probably want to do is to spend time to sit down and go through a financial plan. However, the one thing that you should do is to spend time and sit down and go through a financial plan. And what we're going to do for you is going to make it a lot easier to do by just giving you some short videos, 15 to 20 minutes a pop. So to show you how you can actually get something sorted before Christmas, something solid, so then you can hit the ground running in 2022. So don't be like a lot of those other guys who are just going to be sitting back relaxing. You can be ahead of the pack already by having something done by Christmas. So imagine that. Get into Christmas and actually seeing that and knowing that you've got next year's plans in place and ready to implement. The conversations that you'll be able to have at the Christmas table will be much more invigorating for everybody else that's there and be better for you. So let's get right into it. Today is day 1. As you can see up the top there, I'm going to give you 3 key success factors to have in a financial plan. And these are the 3 things that we do within our business. I'll share my screen here. These are the 3 things that we do within our business for clients. So you're going to get a taste of exactly what we do for other people. So that's pretty exciting. Okay, so before we move forward, I'm just going to give you a little disclaimer. This is general advice. So we don't know your personal circumstance when you're looking at this, and we are not aware of your financial situation. So please see a financial advisor before you go and see anybody, before you implement any of this information, should you feel that you need to. I'm just going to hide that to make it look a bit better. Right, so let's get through the agenda really quickly, just over the next 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to be pretty short. I'm going to be sharp. So get some notes down. This is designed for you to get some takeaways. All right, and it's not just a Jason Andrew talk fest. I'm going to talk through about what financial advice is, go through the 3 elements. The most important ingredient in a financial plan, I'm going to share with you what that is. This is something that every financial advisor knows, but not many have been able to actually harness and to create value around it. Then I'm going to give you 2 tips if we've got some time, and then give you an exercise to do so that you can actually walk out of here with something tangible, not just having listened just to me. All right, so what is financial advice? When most people think about financial advice, they may think about investments, shares, the markets, superannuation, if you're in Australia, or your pension funds. So those are the sorts of things that many people think about within financial advice. But for us, financial advice encompasses your whole financial house. So not just your super or your investments, but everything to do that impacts your financial situation. So I'll give you an example how most people kind of manage this at the moment. So let's just say you have an accountant. Everybody has an accountant. So our clients at Collins & Co. Have an accountant, and then we look after their personal and their business tax. They may get some advisory assistance within their business from some of the partners around how to structure things. So that's one facet of your financial house. And that's one area that people place a lot of emphasis and time on and spend a lot of resources. So that's just one. So what are some of the other things that we see and that we help our clients with? So one of the, you can see here, there's quite a lot. So you might have tax in here. You might also look after your own money. You might manage your cash flow. You might have your spreadsheets. You might be tight on budgets, or you might have no idea where your money's going. You might have your own financial plan just for your personal and your business. Finance here refers to mortgages and, within your personal and your business. A lot of people have debt. A lot of people have a mortgage, credit card debts. How do you manage that? How does that all tie in? Estate planning here to do with your solicitors. You have your wills in place. You have the right structures for your entities and your family trusts, etc. And last but not least, your insurances, not just your general insurance for your car and your home and your business, but what about your personal insurance? Because most people have got some kind of insurance within their super funds, whether it be life, total and permanent disability. There's also other types of insurance like income protection, trauma, business expenses, children's trauma. So there's a lot of things. So in your mind, you might be aware and you might be looking after these things and you might be aware, but it kind of looks a little bit like this. It's a little bit all over the place. You've got some people speaking to each other. You've got you in there. You've got your thinking. You kind of know where you want to go, but things are just a little bit too hard to manage. So financial advice is personalized advice that is tied to you, so in a way that brings all of this together to work in unison for something for something that's important to you. So financial advice is bringing everything together, and we call it like as a team to manage your entire financial house. So typo, financial house. So in this visual, it's really simple to explain. This is how we would see you being a client, and then us at Collins & Co. managing your financial house. So imagine the difference between going from that, what's going on? I know I've got these deadlines. This guy's giving me an email. You speak to you. I've got to go run a business. I've got to go do my job. I've got a family to go run. Oh, have I done the stuff that my partner's asked me to do? Life's pretty hectic. Okay, so we can remove a lot of that stress in financial advice arena by bringing it all together. So imagine the peace of mind you have just sitting inside this kind of framework and letting us work for you. So obviously the most important thing around this is, okay, Jason, that sounds great, but how does that work and how do you actually work for you? So let me talk about the 3 key elements of a financial plan and show you how this sort of dovetails into that whole scenario and how you can benefit from it. So the first thing that we do as a financial advisors is very different to what a lot of other finance conversations that you might go through. So, and the reason we do that is really, and we do this for a purpose, because we believe that we know a lot about finance, we know a lot about portfolios, etc. But there's more to there's something more intrinsic about what drives you to make the decisions to invest in something or to reach financial goals. And that comes down to understanding what's important to you. So the first thing that we actually do within a within a meeting is trying to get to understand what's important to you. Now, this might sound a little bit wishy-washy, and some people find it a little bit uncomfortable at first because it's certainly not what they were expecting when they come to see an advisor. But I can assure you, without this conversation, people just create plans just willy-nilly and they don't have an anchor to come back to. They change their minds because they hear something different, and they're not really, they don't end up living a plan that's important to them. Because we can come up with a great solution, but if the plan's not something that's important to them, then they're not going to implement it. You may have done this in the past. You may have seen people where they've given you ideas and they've sounded great, but deep down they didn't resonate with you, so you didn't implement. So what we do is we utilize a system, and you may have heard of it. It's called Maslow's hierarchy. And Maslow, back in 1954, he created this system of understanding what the drivers were behind people's behaviors and what it was that drove people to fulfill their needs. And you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. So I'll go through them just really briefly, just to give you an understanding on the mindset that we have within the business to be able to help you. Now, the first one is your physiological needs, and these are your basic needs. Food, water, somewhere to rest, a roof over your head. Now, if you are stressed about food and putting the next meal on the table, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to focus elsewhere. So if you go and see an advisor or a consultant and you have these lofty dreams, if you haven't not putting food on the table, then those lofty dreams are not going to resonate, not going to connect with where you are in your current reality. And a lot of the times what happens is people don't end up putting in place a very valuable plan because they're just too busy, stressed about trying to pay their bills. So they don't end up implementing anything, and they may have wasted some money putting together something that they've paid some good money for because we do good plans, but it's not relevant to their situation. So these physiological needs are really important, and we do look at that to make sure your cash flow is okay and make sure that you're hitting those goals in the right way. The next thing is safety needs. So this is that feeling of security, that feeling of peace of mind that you've got financial security, peace of mind that you've part of a community and you've got you actually got that sense of community. And then once you have that in place, then that allows you to then talk about belongingness. So you think about it, you got your physiological needs, so we make sure that's all sorted for you, cash flow, budgeting, etc. Financial security, what does that look like? So once we get you the financial security parameters in place, then that allows you then to feel like, okay, now I have this sense of belonging around this community because I am relaxed and I can have this feeling of belonging, which actually allows you then to go up to the next two levels. So we often do talk about these when we don't create actual financial plans, but about people getting esteem and prestige. So this is like feeling of accomplishment within your community and self-actualization about reaching your full potential. So whilst we do not create a plan about how to be self-actualized and reach your full potential, our financial plans definitely take care of a lot of these down here, which allow you to then go out and spend energy on doing the things that are more important to you than managing money. So if you think back to that slide that I had a couple of slides ago, where you were, everything's everywhere. Think of the time that you spend stressing about just managing that, let alone doing the things that need to be done. So we remove that so that you can, so that's basically here, so that you can focus on being, doing what you need to do, making a difference, spending time with your family. So that's the key thing that we do that separates us from a lot of financial advisors out there. And I'm not going to be shy in saying that because we spend a lot of time investing on how to have that conversation and understand what that means. So once we know what's important to you, then we need to find out what are the goals that are important to you that are attached to those, to your values. And that comes down to the second point. And the second point is really understanding where you want to go and how you want to get there. Because it's a bit like jumping in your car and you wanted to go, let's say you want to go for a road trip or you're going to a function that's somewhere that you don't know where the address is. Now, would you just jump in the car and then drive? Of course not. In the old days, you get out the Melrose or the book, the map. These days, you plug it into Google Maps or whatever online map, and then or into your sat nav in the car, and then you get the directions and you go there. So the same with your financial house and your financial goals. A lot of people stumble their way through success financially. However, the ones that really, really make it, and we can see it within our clients, are the ones that have a plan and they implement that plan. So that's really, really crucial. And not only that, how you get there is important, because I've got here the analogy of the vehicles, right? So the vehicle that gets you to one place may not necessarily be the vehicle that gets you to the next. So let's say, for example, you're living in Melbourne and you want to go to Tassie, and you might have you might drive your car. If you live, so the office is in Footscray, you might have a car and you drive that down to Port Melbourne. You're not going to use that car to get you to Tasmania because it's not the right vehicle. You're going to jump on the ferry, right? Or you're going to take the car to the airport so you can get in the flight to go to Tasmania. It's the same with your finances. The vehicle that you've used, or the methodology and the process you've used to get to where you are right now financially, may not be the right vehicle for you or the right process for you to use moving forward. And when we talk about how you want to get there, it's not just the process, the vehicle, and I guess the steps. It's how you want to do it. You want to do it like if you're a bit, if you've been around for a few years, you may, in your younger years, you may have gone hard, you may have worked hard, you've done, burnt the candle at both ends. Is that how you want to keep on going moving forward? You may have spent time away from your family. It may have meant that you spent some time on the couch because, things didn't quite gel at home. Is that how you want to keep moving forward? So we sit down with you to have the right conversations to try and understand where it is you want to go based on those values that are important to you. And then we come up with the vehicle that's appropriate for you, which is the right strategy. Now, when we say where you want to go, we also get really specific. So this is what you need to do when you sit down and writing this plan, is that you need to know exactly how much you want for where you want to go and exactly when. Because there's no point just having some goals on a goalpost and not knowing exactly when you're going to get there, right? So if you have definitive time frame, then you can work out the money required to get there and what's needed each time along the way. So if you've got a goal to achieve something in 2 years, if you want to retire in 2 years, you need to know exactly how much you need to retire. And then you need to know what's to benchmark that along the next 2 years to make sure that you are on track. Okay, so for example, I've got the example here of a new home. So I want a new home in March 2024 for $900,000. We'll sit down with clients to make sure we have the exact amount, even if they've got to go back and do some research, and the exact date. So that's what I'd encourage you to do, to put down on your plans so that you've got the exact amount and the exact dates. All right, so the third thing is really, really crucial, is understanding where you are now. Because if you have a plan that you want to achieve in the future, if it's based on just some numbers that you've made up or some figures that you know at the back of your head, then obviously that's not going to be right. So for example, if I wanted to go to that function and I'm putting in the wrong address to where I want to go, then I'm not going to get there. If I'm putting in, so for example, there's a flight path. Let me use another example. So let's say we jump on a plane from Melbourne to LA in the days when people used to travel a lot. So in that, when the pilot and the co-pilot get in and map out their route to get to LA in 14 and a half hours, they're putting in place, they know exactly what the weather is ahead, they know how much fuel they have in place, the passengers, the carry load, those sorts of calculations go in to where they are now to know how long it's going to take them to get to LA. So it's the same thing with your financial house. If you don't know exactly where you are in each metric, then you're going to be just making up some numbers, and then you're not going to be getting to where you are in the time frame that you really want to be doing. So you must have the right information, get help, use tools. There's lots of tools available online for this as well, especially for cash flow. And what we do whenever we book an appointment with a client, then we make sure that they bring in all that information that's really, really, really important. Okay, so this is really fundamental. In fact, there's a lot of times where we will pause the process until people give us all this information, because we will refuse to do a plan based on something that that's kind of made up. Well, let's say I save $2,000 a month, but it ends up being, only $500. Well, that has a massive difference on your plan. So really important, take the time out, allocate some time to yourself. I'd say between the next week or so, just getting everything together, pulling all your financials together, understanding what your assets are, your latest statements on your super, your loans, your credit cards, your insurance statements, getting everything together so you've got it sitting there, you can go through and sift through and can see exactly where you are. So that's crucial. So there's the three things, the three elements. So the first thing is understanding what's important to you. Can't move forward without that. Otherwise, we'll just be pulling out inappropriate strategies. Number two, understand where you want to go and how you want to get there, because obviously we need to have a focal point in direction. And number three, understand the starting point, know exactly where you are now. So they're the three key elements to a successful financial plan. It's not rocket science. You may not have heard it put together like that. It's pretty simple when you look at it, but it can take a long time. Some people take 4 to 6 weeks to come back with that information you can see on there, just because life gets in the way. So a lot of times the initial piece takes some time, but if this is you and you're doing this, we want to do this by Christmas, then you want to set some time away, like in the next couple of days, to get all this information together. All right, so let's keep on moving forward, because I want to finish this out really quickly so that you can get away and deliver. Excuse. Thank you. Excuse me about that. So now I want to share with you the most important ingredient in any financial plan. And I've kind of touched on it a little bit. And this is undoubtedly the number one thing that I've seen personally, and also within the hundreds of clients that I've serviced. I've seen this impact so many people. And if we don't get this right in a plan, this is when a lot of plans go astray. Okay, so I'll share with you what it is. I'll ask you first the question here. What do you think is the largest determinant of wealth by retirement? So let's say someone's worked all their life, hit retirement age, 65, 67. When you look at the general population, what do you think is the number one determinant of people's wealth? Because this is obviously going to be important for us when we create plans and for you when you create your plan. Well, there's some research that was done in the US. This is about 20 years ago. They researched 3,900 homes where people were retiring. And so this is real data. This is real information. And they were from various demographics, various occupations as well. And what they found was really interesting. They found that, things like investment choice, where you hear all these people giving you tips on what the market's going to do, this and that, go in here because it's the latest, or your mate tells you what you need to be doing. Things like investment choice across this group, this sample group cohort of 3,900 retiring homes, things that only made 7% difference. And so what does that mean? That means that obviously you've got to get that right. Okay, so there's a downside. If you mess it up, you can mess it up. But spending all your energy on that really only makes about 7% difference in the overall and in the end game. Your income, yes, that's important because what you earn makes a massive difference on what you can input into your goals. But that in itself only made 5% difference. What made the most difference was how much people chose to save. So and look, again, I mean, your mum and your grandma was probably are right. You'd stop spending so much and learn how to save. And, I've personally, it's something I had to work through myself as well, and still am, because I mean, everybody loves a laugh. So the key thing is to work out how you can save money, have right cash flow, but also have a life. Okay, so that's the number one thing, because what happens with this, and we see this with our clients, like we had a client, they were earning over $1 million in net income a year, and their number one goal was to save money because they knew how to spend it. We also have clients who earn, well under that, let's say 10% of that, and they are able to save a lot of money, and they're on paper, they're more wealthy than the $1 million client. And you might know friends like that who are really good savers, and you might be a great saver yourself, or you might be a good spender. So either way, you need to work out how to actually increase your savings. And the best way to do that is to focus on cash flow and understand where your money is going out, getting some tools online. We can certainly obviously help that, but have a look at it because it's important, because 86% of Australians don't know where their money goes at the end of each month. And so if you're just sitting down thinking, it's almost the next payday and you're thinking, oh my God, where did all the money go? Well, you're not alone. However, here's the thing, there's a lot of people that can help you. And the first thing for you is to be aware, so don't be shy. There are ways you can go out there, you can still have a life and save some money. So guys, that is it for the first session today. I wanted to finish it up really quickly, under 30 minutes, because I wanted just to make this really short and sharp and punchy so that you can get some little tips in here. We've got some great cash flow tips. If you wanted some, drop us a line. I might even put up a post about them. I'll put up some extra information around here. So my homework for you is for you to try and find a way, hey, how can you find an extra, let's call it even just $200. Let's make it $100 a week. It's not much for you to just, even that, $100 a week, because that's over $5,000 by the end of the year that you may have saved, and that could be a trip for your family somewhere. So, the borders are open up. That could be, rather than staying at the 3-star in Fiji, you could be going up another level just by putting away $100 a week. So that's the homework for you. And look, I really would hope you got a lot of value out of today. Tomorrow, another great session where I'm going to be giving you some tips on actually what to put inside the plan. And then on the Wednesday, I'm going to show you some of the tools, right? And then showing you how we can help you should you like to. But I really wanted just to do this so you guys can get enough of your own information to start creating your own plan. So get out there tonight, write down what's important to you, put down where you want to head, and then how you want to get there. And we'll look forward to speaking to you soon and creating more value. Until tomorrow, enjoy the rest of the day. Cheers, guys.